Hello and welcome to the Blackout Podcast, where I get to talk to amazing people who do amazing things. And today I have my friend, writer, entrepreneur, and you used to be on TV for a while.
Yeah, for a while.
You're now creating so much content. I'm really excited for this episode. So thanks so much for coming to the podcast today.
It's such an honor. I mean, looking at your work and your own creativity, and I think that's a really important point that you make for your audience, is that you want to align yourself with other creators, because sometimes when you are one, it can kind of be a lonely process. As a writer, I spend enormous amounts of time researching and, writing the draft, and then you have to go through the editing process. So I'm not really a lonely person, but it can be a lone process. Mm-hmm. So I think that if you're a creative person, whether you're a dancer, singer, music, whatever it is for mm-hmm. you, that to find a community of like-minded people is a really, really important thing. And it helps, you lift up someone and they lift up you, and it's a yin and a yang thing, right? There's room in the pond for everybody. And that's a big thing for me. I try to support other people. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter their age, background, culture. I believe there's room in the pond for everybody's creativity. So I try to support other people, because I've certainly got the support too.
That's amazing. So we only have 3 of your how many books now?
I'm working on my 7th book. I was at a conference yesterday and I was lucky enough to sell a few copies. So I had some copies at home. So these are 3 I'm working on book 7 right now for 2025.
Okay, which one was the first one?
The first one is a book about my late father. My dad was a firefighter, and I'm a very proud firefighter daughter. So I grew up in a first responder family and in that culture, which doesn't really need to be explained to me because we lived it, right? I mean, there were many times where my dad had to go out and work and would miss holidays or events because he was trying to protect complete strangers. So a lot of what I do in my writing is to honor first responders and advocate for them and their mental health. The first book I did was to honor my late dad, and his name was Baz Landry. Everybody calls him Baz. Mm-hmm. And he did this crazy rescue of a little baby off of Bears Road. There's a group of public housing not far from the Halifax Shopping Centre. Right. And in that public housing, in 1978, there was a really bad house fire, and a baby was trapped up on the 2nd floor. And my dad made an entry off of a veranda without wearing breathing apparatus that it reads like a movie of the week, except it was real. And he got Canada's Medal of Bravery for this rescue of this 8-week-old little boy. And so Dad had passed. I didn't do the book when he was still alive, which is one regret I have, is I didn't do it. But I just wasn't ready as a creator to do the long pieces then. Mm-hmm. And I think his passing was actually, I mean, you can't really find silver linings in losing your own father. But I will say this. I felt that passion in me to create long-form nonfiction started after his passing as a way to honor him. And so I actually reunited in book 1, it's called The 60-Second Story, with the actual person that he saved from that fire, who's now like a man about your age. He has, a partner with 2 children, and that guy is here on Earth today because of my dad. Wow. So that was like an academy. Look, I get chills still talking about it. Mm-hmm. His name's Nick, and I tracked down and reunited with Nick, and meeting him and, imagining what that would be like, to go and walk across a room to a guy that I know what my dad went through to try to rescue him. And the 2 of them almost died. That's why it's called The 60-Second Story, because there was literally 60 seconds between life and death of both him and the baby dying. So, I mean, I'm a very emotional person. So when I finally saw Nick, I couldn't help myself. He must have thought I was like out of my mind because I walked right up to him and hugged him. Right. He's like, "Who's this lady?" But he was so gracious. His whole family were amazing with me. And in that book, there are photos of me with the family, and they were just like, they just think my dad is, whatever. It's like a lifesaver for them, right? So that was so special. And that's what kicked it off, was trying to honor my late father. And it just sort of snowballed from there, and from one piece to another.
So 7 now, but let's rewind. Like, what did you want to be growing up?
Pardon me?
What did you want to be growing up?
I wanted to be a teacher when I was a kid, and I actually got to be. It's so weird, even though I trained as a journalist, and I've been one for like 30 some odd years, dating myself. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a teacher. And at one point during my career, I actually taught part-time at Mount St. Vincent University for 16 years.
Holy shit. What were you teaching?
So like in the Department of Communication Studies, I taught video production, I taught public speaking, like how to teach people how to do script writing, persuasive writing, all kinds of different things like that. And it's actually one of the biggest gifts in my life, because I have students of every nationality and culture all over the world that I taught at the Mount. There's a big international student society and group there. So there's people from everywhere, and I have them all over the world, and they still message me and talk to me, and they've gone on to work and have families. And keeping in contact with these young people, it's just such a blessing in my life that I've got to meet them. So yeah, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a teacher, but I was always a writer. Even as a little child, I would sit and write stories for fun.
What sort of stories would you write as a kid?
Just make-believe stuff. I remember I wrote this one thing about a little frog. And he had glasses. He had to wear glasses, and he couldn't find his glasses. And at the end of the story, he had them on his head the whole time.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So little stuff like that, fun things, And there's still part of me that would like to write for children, and I do have a couple of ideas now that have come to the forefront with this book that I'm working on, which is nonfiction. I always write nonfiction mostly, but there's a couple things swirling around it that I've always wanted to write children's books too, which most people wouldn't think, because a lot of the stuff I do is super serious subject matter. But yeah, I have that because, again, I did it when I was really, really young. That's really who I am. I like fun. I like having fun. I like animals. I like the outside. I like to laugh. I love humor. So even though I tackle really serious stuff, you got to balance it, right? I love music. I listen to music every day of my life.
Music is, to me, like, I listen to music all the time. Music, to me, it's like, it has this calming effect, right? No matter how bad I feel, there's almost always a song that I'll listen to that will just bring a smile to my face.
Yeah.
So I can relate that. Okay, so you wrote as a kid, and then you went down this path to become a journalist. What was your first job as a journalist?
So when I was in grade 12, I had, it was actually a grade 12 English teacher who talked to me about going into journalism. And when I was in high school, I loved science and biology, and I loved the ocean. And I grew up by the ocean. I thought about being a marine biologist and a diver, and like going kind of doing the science thing with around the ocean.
Right.
And I literally was trying to choose between going into being a storyteller journalist and working around the sea, which is I love to be by the water. It's my favorite thing. With music is also a big thing for me. And actually my grade 12 teacher was like, man, you should really look at journalism, because you're a good writer, and it's something you love. And that's another big message for your listeners and viewers is passion, following your passion. You got to listen to what's your gut, right? Your gut will guide you. And I know I made the right decision. I still love the sea, and I go seek it out all the time. But I mean, I came in as a storyteller, and I'm going to go out as one until my health gives out and I can't do this. I'll tell stories in various forms for the rest of my life.
Oh. Okay, so did you work with a newspaper right away?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot that part of the question. I worked in television. So after I trained at King's, I did the 4-year honors program at the University of King's College. And in King's, as you get farther into the program, you kind of decide what's the area you're really interested in, like say for a major. And I did broadcasting. So I came out, I had to do a practicum or a placement during my studies, and I went to, then it's now CTV, but then was ATV ASN, and I went there and did my practicum. I also did some work at CBC Radio, and I have also worked there when I was really, really young. And I worked in television. So my background for 12 years was in production as a news person. So I did worked on various shows. So I've been a producer, lineup editor. I've been an anchor. So TV is my background.
What do you, I mean, it's been, how long has it been since you were on TV now?
Well, I finished there when my daughter was born in 1999. She's 24 now, and that's when I left. I did other stuff in video production, and I still work in video production today for myself, but I left like on air, you turn on the 6 o'clock news and there's Janice, 1999. So I did that in the late 80s and all through the 90s. I did TV where people would go, oh yeah, there's a reporter that we know in Halifax.
What was it like doing that?
It's really hard is what I would say to people, because you have to be extremely disciplined about deadlines. You're constantly, every single day, having to come up with story ideas, which some people don't always ask you, where do you get your ideas at? Right? It's really, really hard. So you're constantly on top of what everything is happening in your community. And then you have specialty areas that you do. But that's really hard because you have daily deadlines. I'd be like calling you up like, Israel, I got to come down and get an interview. Then I got to go over there and do this. I got to put it all together and then have it ready for that night's news. I could do it then because I was in my 20s and early 30s. Like now I'm in my 50s and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I could. I mean, hats off to all the people. And I know lots of people out there that do this. It's really, really the energy that you have to put out daily to do that. People don't understand. It's super, super hard.
Wow. What did you like about it though?
The people. I'm a big people person, and still to this day in what I do as an author and in my other production work that I do in my independent production company, my biggest thing is what I'm doing right now is talking to you. I love people. I'm kind of like an extroverted introvert. I'll go home after talking to you and putting this energy out and chill out. I'll probably go outside this afternoon. It's nice out. I might have a glass of wine, just saying. Don't drink and drive.
Right.
And I'll probably putter around. I like to be outside in nature. That's a big thing for me. I'll listen to music. I like to play games and cards. Our daughter's coming over to play cards with us later. I'll make some dinner. So I will be social, but then I'll need to balance that with some kind of like, okay, I just need a minute to myself now, if you can relate.
Totally. I think I'm more of a people's person than I am. Like, I will do it when I have to, but I need to pace myself.
But you're hosting this podcast, Israel. Like, come on. Yeah, I don't know. No, I'm not a people person. I just go meet all these people and talk to them for come on. But I think you're quite the people person too.
Thanks. So, when you were on TV, like, did you, obviously you have to write your scripts and stuff, but like a book, do you start writing one right away? Like
the transition I did, it's a really good question, because writing for television, and I also would do stories for the actual shows, and then I would later, because I anchored shows, you'd have to write the whole show. So that's how you learn how to write different sections and transition and have openings and whatever it is. So I used to write hour-long shows too. And then after that, when I left, because of our daughter being born, the thing that was a big transitional period for me was I love magazines, and I grew up reading them, and I always loved fashion and fashion magazines and interviews with people, like the Q&A sections where you'd ask me a question and a verbatim answer about whatever, your life, and it could be anything. So I started to write magazine articles, which were different formats again than writing for television scripts and that sort of thing. And that's how I started to expand slowly. But that's a really good question, because my first book about Dad that I told you about with the fire and the baby, that was hard for me, because we're used to in television and shows, it's very succinct, crisp, tight writing, and now in long form nonfiction, you're pulling that sucker out, right? So that took a little while, and now you just can't shut me up, Israel. I just go on. And my friends will say, I have this girlfriend, she's from Cape Breton, her name's Leanne, and she's just an absolute sweetheart, and her and I, like our friends will say, you guys could talk for 5 minutes about a toothbrush, right? It's like, and so I'm kind of like that. I'm a chatty Cathy doll.
No, that's a good thing,
So,
and
it's
then
all good.
it's
all good.
very. First off, I love the way you sound, and it's very warm. It's like a warm hug when you talk. So it's like I'll listen to you all day.
Yeah.
Talking about whatever.
You bring the wine out now, and I'll never. We're here for the night. I don't know. How much time do you have, really?
Okay,
No,
so
I'm teasing.
you did the one about your dad, which
Yeah.
is super personal. Did you? Was the next one also personal?
This one came from the book about Dad, and because I'm talking about the fire in this first book, about kind of like a play-by-play, and I bring in all the other firefighters because Dad had this really important quote in that first book. You know, you go to a fire as a team. My dad was very super humble, and he would have been pissed off at me to write a book about him without bringing in his firefighting brothers.
Right.
There were no, back in when this rescue happened, there were no female firefighters. There are now, I know lots of them, but then it was just firefighting brothers. They refer to themselves as brothers and sisters. This is a family, right, in the firefighting community. So all of them are in the book, and then I also honored all the firefighters from the Halifax explosion. So in the Halifax explosion, which is a very famous incident, there were 9 firefighters who died, and they're referred to with deep honor and respect as the Fallen 9. And so I talk about the Fallen 9 in that first book too, to try to honor them along with Dad and his peers. This book, which is called The Price We Pay, comes out of that first book. Because when I did, this is like Crazyville. When I did this social media publicity and went out and did my kind of author tour for that first book, I got on Facebook, for the people who are on Facebook, I got a private message, which means that this person and I weren't friends on Facebook, but they can message you.
Right.
The person who caused the fire in the first book reached out to me and said,
"Holy shit."
I know. And said, this is who I am. I want to talk to you about what happened. And so that interview, and I don't want to, because I want people to read it.
Right,
but
right.
the guy who like, it wasn't on purpose. It was just a terrible thing that happened. And I'll just say this, it was a child playing with matches.
Holy shit.
And that man lived with that. And think about how gutsy you have to be
to
sit across from a journalist and the daughter of the man who almost died in the fire. Like, this guy is so ballsy, and he and I are still friends on Facebook. I actually dedicated this book that he talked to me partially to him, because he did it. This book is about decision making, how we all have good and bad decisions in our lives, doesn't matter who you are. Everybody listening right now is thinking, oh, you know, I've had this shit that I wish I shoulda, coulda, woulda. And this gentleman came and talked to me to let people know that that's okay, right? You can come to terms with that and let some of that go and not beat yourself up for the rest of your life over a decision you regret. And he is truly one of the most beautiful, gutsy people. And my dad, he collects, this is, you know, kind of a private thing. I don't know if I've told anyone this, but my dad, you know, when your person passes, you only have so much of their stuff left behind. And this gentleman, who was, again, extremely brave, collects watches. And after we met and did this extremely long, in-depth interview, which is in this book, I went and I wrapped up one of my dad's watches and I gave it to him for part of his collection. Wow. And I said, you know what, like, you know, we forgive you. Like, what happened it wasn't your fault. You were a kid, and we all do stuff like this. I know this is kind of a heavy moment, but it was beautiful too. And he was just so blown away that I gave him one of my dad's watches. So I feel really good about that. It's like him, and he said to me and his family were incredibly beautiful too. Like, they were like, you know, you've done so much for this man by doing this. And, you know, he's gone on. He's just a fantastic man. I can't say enough about him. And he made a bad mistake as a kid, right?
Wow. You know, the first one is about your dad and this incredible event. I think this book might actually be a little bit more difficult to write, right? Because
It was because, like, as a journalist, I really carry people. I tell this to people. I carry people with me that I talk to, because if you ask someone to open up about a very emotional or difficult or just personal thing, then, I take that as a huge responsibility to really lift that up to the absolute best of my ability. So in preparation for, the gentleman's first name is Jamie, in preparation for Jamie's interview, it took me months. It was weeks. This is not just something you whip out and do.
No.
Because I thought to myself, if I'm going to take this guy back to a very traumatic thing, and I'm very careful because I am a mental health advocate about re-traumatizing people. It's a huge thing as a documentarian, podcaster, journalist, whoever you are as a creative artist, you have to be super aware of that. So I thought about, why would I do this interview with him? Besides, like, it's a liberation thing for him and for me. But, my dad, if anyone who knew Baz, was a huge fire prevention guy. Like, safety was everything in our house. Safety was everything. So I thought this is an opportunity for people, families, or people to have discussions with young people about fire prevention, about lighters and matches and other things, So that's what I really went on, that sort of angle is in the book too, because it's something that Jamie could speak to and his family, and that other people can go, hey, you know what, maybe we need to have a family discussion about that type of stuff.
60 seconds was because of the time.
Yeah.
For another book, the price we pay.
Yeah, the price we pay for the decisions that we make, right? Right, the price we pay. And again, some of them are good. At the end of the book, the price we pay is a woman who was driving down the highway. She'd been up in Bears Lake shopping at one of the big box stores up there, and she was taking some stuff home down the South Shore to her family, and her gas pedal stuck on her car.
Shit.
So she's going over 100 kilometers an hour, and she knows she's going to have a head on, right? There's another car behind her. I don't want to get into all of it, but she has to make a split second decision. Book about decision making. It's either me in this car, or she knows she's going to hit another car, and she's like, I can't have a head on with potentially other kids or families. I have to try to save them. So she purposely drove her car off the side of the highway into a ditch to save other people. So it's good decision making too. She survived and walked away, and it was actually off-duty first responders who saved her. Her car blew up. They just got her out.
Wow.
Yeah, it is a wow. Look, I got more shivers.
Right.
Yeah, these are the types of things that people talk to me about. It's such, I don't want people to think, oh, Janice is blowing this off, because Janice carries them all with her. And I have sleepless nights. There are times at my computer I break down. I have to walk away from the work. Wow. There's some very emotional, incredibly poignant things. But as a creator, that's also a key message takeaway from this today, is you got to know when to say when and take a break, man, because you can, burn out. And, I've learned that the hard way. Talking about some of the stuff, it's tough.
Do you have, I guess, you mentioned taking a break, but do you have an average time, okay, between these books, I'm not going to do anything and I'm just going to relax, or the book comes when the book comes?
Yeah, a bit of both. So I actually took a break between the last book and the one I'm working on now because I got sick. And so, that's actually a subject matter in the next book, so I don't want to blow that. But I had a forced hiatus because of my health, and I'm good now. It's all good. But that gave me a deeper perspective, because the mistake I made was going bang, one after the other, and not taking a break. And I have to tell you, taking the break as a creative person is the best thing that ever happened to me, because it gave me time to just put things in perspective and come out again stronger. So yeah, I took probably a good 6 months off. I don't mean of everything, but there was a period of time where I had to, for a few months I had to, because of my health. So taking breaks is huge, and things do come out when they're ready. I tell people, to me, it's like a visual stovetop with pots. And I move the pots around on the burners based on what's ready to come out and bubble. And that's what I do. It's okay, I've had stories that have percolated for 20 years. For example, in this book, The Eye of the Ocean, which is my latest book, there's a story in here about my grandfather, who was from Bulgaria. I knew for decades, I wanted to honor my late grandfather, who was an immigrant who came, like millions of immigrants, to Canada with nothing. He was 17, didn't know the language. I didn't know him. He died before I was born, but he came with literally nothing with his brother as a 17-year-old kid. Like, how scary is that?
Very.
And so I honor him and tell his story in here, and I knew I'd do that. But there was, things come out when they're ready, and it's, again, listening to your gut. Don't force it. Don't force a round peg into a square hole. It's true though. People do. They're like, well, I got to get this done now. But no, maybe that album's not ready to come out yet, or that painting, or you're not ready to do, the best sprint that you've ever done in sports because you haven't trained enough, but next year you'll be ready for it. It just depends on what you're doing, but you've got to really listening inside is a really big part of creating.
So let's talk about the process then. Right?
Yeah.
You meet a subject or whatever, one of these stories we've had for 20 years, it's like, okay, it's time to put it on the big pot, turn it up. What do you do?
You ask great questions. So I'm a really disciplined person. I have, and I say that humbly, but I grew up with my dad. My dad had the best work ethic of any person I've ever met in my entire life. And I've met a lot of people in my career because of what I do. So I grew up in a household where, and this will sound harsh, but Dad wasn't. Like, if I came home from school, I was to do my homework before I went outside to play. I had to get the work done. Like, there was no not getting the work done in my house. There was no sloughing around, like sloughing off. So my attention to detail and work ethic is high because that's the way I was kind of groomed. And I'm happy about it now because I can get shit done that maybe, like, I can get stuff done in the space of a day or a week that might take people a lot other, because they're distracted or whatever. So I write in the morning. I'm a morning person. My desk faces a window. I have to see out while I'm writing.
You do?
Yep. I like animals. I like to look at the birds. I like to look at the trees and the leaves. I'm a huge outdoor nature nut. I love it. I grew up outside. We can talk more about that if you want. But yeah, my desk, I work on a desktop computer. I have a laptop too. But when I'm writing big stuff, I write on my desktop. I write by a window. I don't have a cluttered desk. I hate clutter. I don't. It can look messy. Like, if I've got notes, they're all over. But at the end of the day, she's all back ready for the next day. It's like, done for the day. Now to the next day. While I'm there, though, there's pages of notes, and I must have those little sticky note things. I must have 50 of those, but they're all in a little neat pile, and I have to go through them. They're not everywhere. Okay. I usually have flowers on my desk. I usually have a candle or candles lit while I'm writing. This is true. Safety first, though. It's Baz Landry's daughter, the firefighter's daughter. Yeah. And I write for probably 3 or 4 hours at a time, and then I stop.
Wait, like straight?
Mostly straight, yeah. I get up for breaks because of movement. I know, like, movement is really, I'm an active person and I incorporate movement into my day. But like every hour I'll get up and do, like, fold some clothes, make a cup of tea. I'm a big tea person, so I always have a pot of tea on, and I get up and move. But yes, let's say it's 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., I only get up maybe for 10-minute breaks in those. So yeah, I'll eat my lunch standing at the kitchen counter to get to my 1 p.m. and then I'm done. I'm very disciplined.
So, okay. And I mean, do you like outline when you're writing, or do you?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. In my head, I outline. So for a long time prior to a piece coming out and bubbling on the stove, because I'm visual and I've been trained visually in television, I can see things almost visually in my head. This is my beginning, or I don't know the beginning, but I know the ending. And so I'll kind of map the story arc out in my head, and then I don't like sit and write it out, but if I go out and do interviews, let's say for each book, I always do multiple interviews with people across Canada, some in the US. This next one has some international people in it. I will go, okay, here's my theme. What's my message and theme? And then I start bringing them in, and it's kind of like putting pieces of a puzzle together, or like you put your umbrella up and you have all the spokes of the umbrella. That's how I see my pieces, right? And they all come together, a lot of the time in my head first. Then a lot of writers will tell you the writing is up here a lot first. It's up here. You're working it out. Even I think almost last night I woke up, as you know, at 3 a.m. You're thinking about, oh, I was thinking about today. I got to go and I got to do this podcast. Well, what were you talking about? I'm running stuff in my head all the time. It's exhausting.
Okay. So discipline means do you have deadlines or?
Yeah, I do. I have this, working with my publisher who's accepted my new book, which is thrilling. My publisher's Pottersfield Press, and that's Leslie Choice. And Leslie is just a writing publishing guru in Nova Scotia. He's originally from the U.S. and he lives in Lawrencetown. He's been here for decades. He's the original surfer in Nova Scotia. He's a big surfing dude, still surfs. He's big into Dal. He teaches English at Dal. So he gave me the green light for this book. He's published all my books, and bless him for that. So my deadline to have the draft of the manuscript is this spring, for next spring. So I am on a deadline right now, which makes it a little tougher than if you're just sitting around creating. But I knew that. I mean, I started it back a number of months ago. So I'm good. I'm good. I'm going to make the deadline.
Talking about process, do you ever write like physically or just type everything out?
No, I do all my, ask really good questions about the creative process. I actually transcribe all my interviews long form. People think that's insane.
It is!
But here's why, and I tell people this, even though I know it's old school and I can use apps and I know all the apps and I have all kinds of writer friends, when you do this and take the time, then you remember what people say.
Right.
So it's like all the important stuff comes up to the top. It's like, oh yeah, and they said this and that, and all that other sludge falls down. So it's partly for memory, but it helps me process for my message, right? Whatever my theme and message is. I have this hour-long interview. Yeah, it took me a while to do it, but now I know exactly where I'm going with that person.
Okay, I gotta ask, like you're transcribing, how long will it take to transcribe a 1-hour interview?
Hours. Yeah, and what I do, right, is like what you just did, laugh. So I'll say, oh, how long does it take to describe it and Israel, and then laughs. So in my books, I will actually tell the audience that's reading, and the person laughed, or they broke down, or their voice cracked.
Right.
So you can't get that off an app. And then people tell me, man, when we read your books, it's like we're there in the interview with you, right? Because I will say, it got a little whatever, and I have all of that detail, and people, because it paints a picture. It's a book, right? You can't see it like today, but like the fact that you laughed after asking that question is really telling. And I put all that little detail. And again, this is my way. It doesn't make it the right way. It's what I have to do though. And it's worked for me so far.
I mean, you've done 6 of these so far. So.
Yeah.
Are you ever going to do fiction?
I have done one piece of fiction. It's actually, I had it till yesterday and someone bought it at this conference. It's a horror story. I grew up watching scary stuff and mysteries and Twilight Zone and all that. I love all that crazy out there stuff. And so my late writing mentor, his name is Bill Jessam, and he was like an icon in broadcasting and writing. And he wrote right into his late 80s till his health declined. He was the maritime mysteries guru. So he would do these videos of maritime mysteries and books of maritime mysteries. So I wrote this chapter in a horror anthology that's available, and I can send you a screenshot of it if you want to include in this section. And it's a story called Mother. And it's set in York Redoubt, which is a fort on the outskirts of Halifax. I grew up in Purcell's Cove, which is maybe a 7-minute drive from York Redoubt. And when we were young kids, and we won't go into great details here, we used to hang around at the fort sometimes. That's all I'll say. We have fun.
Right.
But I love it down there, and I like going hiking and walking, and I still go down to the fort. So I set this scary story, which is fictional, called Mother, at the fort, and there's some cool tunnels and stuff down in there. And so there's a big scene that happens in one of the tunnels that I know well. And I did this as an homage to my late writing mentor who wrote the mystery. So I have had one published piece of fiction.
What is it called?
Mother. Yeah.
And
It's in this book. I'll send you the book. Yeah, I'll send you the book. It's just one. It's an anthology, so it's all kinds of Nova
and
Scotia
then you
authors.
put yours in there.
And I was invited to.
Are you going to write like a big fiction?
Well, I'd love to write a mystery.
What will it be about?
I'd love to write a mystery. I kind of have something that's way on the back burner. I also understand from other writers they're probably one of the most difficult things to write because you've got to put all those little red herrings in there. Really layered and difficult, but they're my absolute favorite is mysteries. And that's because of my late mother, Theresa. She loved mysteries, and I used to grow up watching mystery movies and stuff with her. I read like Agatha Christie and the Nancy Drew books and the Hardy, anything like a kid for mysteries. I read all that stuff.
Wow.
Loved it. I still love a good mystery.
So will it be the next book?
No, it'll be way down the road. when I have no hair or teeth left, you'll have me back, and I'll gum the words out, and I'll tell you about my mystery book.
Oh man. Okay, so one thing when you're writing and stuff, like, I mean, you might have an ending and stuff, but how do you know I'm done with this book?
Well, you know what? That's a really, I don't think you're ever done. And that's it's almost like a painter or whatever you're doing. You're doing an album in the studio. You know, you're always like, well, I could probably just do this a little more or that a little more. And every creative person listening is going, yeah. But you know, the thing is, you do have a deadline. And if you're going to have it published or you're going to release, you're going to drop your album or whatever you're doing, it's got to go out there and you have to let go. And the letting go, like when I hit send after all the edits are done, and we do multiple rounds of edits, and I have editors, God bless them, that help me to lift the work up because they're brilliant and they're better writers than I am, my editors, and I thank my editors, I really do. Then you have to say, okay, it's due, and you have to let go, and then it's scary, and I almost vomit. And I'm not kidding. Either when the book is between the period of you've hit send, you can't touch it anymore, and the thing comes out, there I'm holding it, and oh Christ, now people are going to look at it and they're going to hate it. I always think everyone's going to hate it, and I don't sleep at night. And my family will tell you it doesn't matter for me how many of these I do. It doesn't get easier, and I just worry and sweat, and
Wow.
there are times I almost get sick to my stomach over it.
You've done this for years and years and years. Like, I mean, do you ever have any feelings of imposter syndrome?
No, I don't, because I knew I was a kid. I don't have a feeling of imposter syndrome. If you're a creator and storyteller, it's okay to call yourself that. You don't have to be published. This is also a really important conversation. You can write for yourself. You can dance alone. You can play your music. My husband's a drummer. He's amazing. We have, you can sit today. When I went out for a walk, he was drumming, listening to music. You don't have to be what everybody else thinks you might have to be. So you don't have to be an imposter. If you like to dance, dance. If you like to write, write. I was a kid that liked to tell stories. I'm just a little older now. I like to tell stories. There's nothing wrong with that. If you don't like my books, don't buy them. If you like them, buy them. But I do a lot of this for me too. I don't have a choice. I have to tell stories. They just come out. So I don't, it's not like who am I? I'm not like any more important than the next person. It's just, I like to storytell. It's my way is with words. Your way could be with music. The next person could be, I want to be like a person who designs cars. It doesn't matter. I get the imposter syndrome conversation, but for me, I think you just be yourself and let that come out. So I'm just a kid from Purcell's Cove that still writes stories.
How about writer's block?
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't get writer's block, because if you're stuck, here's what I do. And you can get to a point where you're having like, I'm not sure where to go with this next chapter. I go outside. I'm a nature lover. I go by the water. Whatever it is maybe you like to bake, you could go in the kitchen. Maybe you're a gardener. I don't know what you're doing. But yeah, if you just step away, it's okay. And look outside, like go outside, force yourself out into the community, and you'll find the inspiration that you're looking for. So I don't mind walking away from something, because again, your gut will tell you, we're in a bit of a rough patch here. But I've actually never had true writer's block ever. Okay. But I just know to leave it now. Leave it now. It's okay. And get your butt outside. And when I come back in, I always feel better.
The production company, why did you start it?
So my production company is called Groundhog Productions.
Love the name.
Because I was born on Groundhog Day, February 2nd. So I am Groundhog. It's me. I'm Groundhog. Silly. I like fun, silly stuff, right? Like I told you, I grew up watching comedies. Besides all the horror and mystery, I love comedies.
Right.
And after our daughter, Laura, was born, and I worked in television, having a baby with the type of work that I did personally, I was at a lot of difficult scenes in the community. And you can't have a little infant at home and then be at an armed standoff that you can't leave, or a live press conference or whatever. So, my family always comes first. And I want, especially if they're watching, them to know my family comes before everything. I'm a mom, a proud mom and wife and daughter. My parents are passed now. My family has always come first. They always will come first. So, which is for me having more control over my time to be with Laura. And it started from that. And actually, it's a good point, because when I started, there were some people that thought I lost it. Like, what are you doing that for? Why would you ever leave this job? You had a good job.
Right.
I got the
it's
guff.
Like you leave this safety net.
Yeah, I got the guff, and you're going to get it too. And I talk to people about this. I'll never name names. I'm not that person. I'm not a bitter person. But I definitely had people that when I first said I wanted to start writing books, or I wanted to go out and do this, you're like, okay, Janice, you go, girl. And they didn't believe that I'd do it.
Right.
But they don't really know me, because they don't know the background I came from with being Baz Landry's daughter. I told you about like the work ethic. I told you about all that. That's who I am, right? I love to have fun. But man, if the work's got to get done, I'm going to get it done. So I tell people, like, don't listen to the naysayers and whatever, right? You just listen to yourself. And I have a lot of really supportive people around me, but that doesn't mean everybody's supportive. And that's a tough conversation to have. But it doesn't. But you just can't let that, you walk in the light, right? Lots of light out there. Be part of the light, right? That's all I'm trying to do, is help people. All my books are to help people not feel alone. All of my books are to help people not feel alone. This is my way of adding to what we call the light. It's all it is.
Okay, so I guess the new book, you can't really talk about it. How at what stage in the process of creating this book
I can talk a little bit about it. I mean,
Okay.
I'm really, like, journalists are pretty close to the chest about story ideas, because people steal them on you. And they do. And I'm sorry, but they do. And you got to be careful who you tell your story ideas to. I have a group of about, not counting my family, about 3 or 4 people I tell my story ideas to the whole time, all my books. And I bounce them. These guys are also creative people, or people I trust, or like family to me. They're friends. And there's a few people who know what I'm working on. And so they're a good sounding board, right? What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And so it's good to have those, like that inner sanctum. I have that. So right now I've done all the interviews for the book.
Oh, wow.
I know the name of the book. I know the beginning, middle, and end of the book.
Oh.
I am 3/4 of the way through the draft. So I have the back end conclusion and like the little acknowledgments and sort of housekeeping items. So I know I'm going to hit my deadline, but I also can't force it. So in my production company, I have 2 projects I'm working on, like for clients, and they pay the bills. I can go out and buy groceries with this stuff. I got to get my work done. We have a family, and I'm a mom, and we have bills to pay. So I have, these projects. So I'm trying to juggle my client work, let's call it, with my my own projects. So right now I've had to put the book on hold for, let's say, probably 3 to 4 weeks while I get this client work done. And then I'll go back and finish the draft and send it to the publisher. So he'll get it in May or June.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the discipline came from your dad, your parents, really.
Yeah. Yes.
But like, discipline isn't something that stays with you. It's like you have to keep practicing it. So, you get to a point in your life where you have this job and now you're doing these things you love. How do you maintain that discipline though? Because you don't have to do it, you know what I mean? I know you have to tell the stories, but how do you keep that discipline to keep bringing these things out?
I think making time for your thing, whatever your thing is, if it's cooking, if it's dancing or whatever, I think you have to eke that time out. And for me, what I wasn't doing enough of, which I talked about earlier, is moving more. So I would get so sucked into the discipline of the writing, I wouldn't add in exercising and movement. So, and that's important if you're sedentary, as a writer is, right? That you start to feel that you get stiff and you start to hold stress and all the stuff. So now part of the discipline is making time to step away to move more. So this is going to sound crazy, but adding the movement in has helped me stay more disciplined because I feel better. And part of that's up here because when you move, and it doesn't have to be at the gym. I'm not a gym person. So right now I'm doing a combination of stretching, Pilates, and walking. And if I do that, I try to do something 5 or 6 days a week. And I do it for me because I did tell you I did have an illness last year, which is in the new book. And I thought, man, you got to be starting to look after yourself here, right? You're not a machine. So I can kind of go into that mode because of the discipline is like this. And now we're going to push ourselves. And I overbook myself. I'm notorious for that. All my close friends know it. I've done it right now. I've overbooked myself again. I just don't learn.
Oh my God.
But now I have that gift of movement of today I'm going outside for a walk. Today I'm going to get down on my yoga mat and do some stretching because, man, you get stiff. Right? And I'm not getting any younger over here. I mean, I know I'm still 29 with a 24-year-old. That's what I would say. I'm 29 with a 24-year-old daughter. I'm joking. But honestly, part of the discipline is making room for the other stuff too. Because it can't all be about, you're not a machine churning out sausages in a sausage factory. It doesn't work that way. So if you like painting, adding some of that into this other stuff, like you're working in your cubicle at your office, is going to help you in everything in your life. Whatever it is, for me, I like to be outside, but it could be if someone's not an outside person, it could be they like to grow seeds and grow plants. I don't know what it is, but it could be anything.
Do the thing, but make time for the thing that balances it out.
Right, because the things that, like, think about when we were kids and you go out and play. And they have that joy, like sometimes adults lose that joy, right? I really liked, when I was a kid, I liked dancing, So like, it's okay to break out into a one-person dance party in your kitchen. And believe me, I do it. It's bad. It's fun. Who cares?
Right.
Crank the tunes up and dance around or whatever. I think I'm whoever. I put my headphones on. I wear the big bucket headphones. I told you I grew up with people in bands my whole life in high school. All my friends are in bands. My husband plays music. So, I mean, I will sing. I'm terrible, but no one can hear me. So, but if you don't do the stuff that gives you joy, and so many adults, because they have, the pressure of money and bills and responsibilities that we all have, you let those things, if you let them go. And I think trying to connect with even just one thing again, that when you were a kid, I loved X. Oh my gosh, that's so important. Even if it's 15 minutes every day or a couple days, you're like, man, I got back into painting again and I'm happy about it. And you don't have to spend a lot of money on all this stuff. I'm not talking about I have sneakers I wear that are years old. Put the sneakers on and get out the door. It's just getting that motivation to connect with the joy. And I think that's a really huge, important message today too. Try to reconnect with your joy.
Try to reconnect with your joy. I love that. Every time I talk to you, it's like, okay, I have so many things and I'm like, oh my God, I have so many questions.
I can come back. When the book's out next year, I'll come back. We'll talk about the illness part thing is a kind of a big wake up call for me. And I would get into it today with you, but I will get back into it another day with you if you want. I'd love to talk about it.
Yeah, we won't talk about it, but was it linked in any way to just digging in and writing, churning all this?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. It didn't, but it actually has helped me be a better writer. And that's actually some of the things I talk about. So, for example, in this other book, Silver Linings, which is about gratitude, and all the people in the book have gone through tough stuff, and they lean into gratitude as part of building resiliency. So I'm not talking about like running through fields of daisies. Everything in your life's like a bowl of cherries. I mean, some tough crap went down. And we realized later on when we reflected back that some of those tough things, the best stuff came out of it. The silver linings were there. So for me, this illness was extremely tough. It was the sickest I've ever been. Wow. But in there were silver linings. So those silver linings are part of the new piece. It's not about silver linings, but it will all make sense. It'll make sense, trust me.
So storytelling is your thing, and you said to kind of like doing your thing. Is your other thing being outside or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, one of the things you wanted me to talk about was something that happened to me when I was under 17.
Oh, that's my special. That's the last question.
Okay, I'll wait.
Yeah,
See,
yeah,
look, I'm not gonna. I'll let you be. You're the interviewer, not me. I'll just shut up and answer the questions. Yes, being outside is probably what makes me happiest, but put that by water of any kind. Oh. I'm a huge, I told you, I thought about going into marine biology.
Right.
I still, to be around water, and even like taking a bath, talking about reconnecting with joy, I get a lot of story ideas. If I'm stressed out, I'll have like a bath, put the candles on, have a glass of wine, and just chill. I get a lot of story ideas just from having a bath. Right. Just because I actually stop moving and chill out. Which, if you know my personality, I'm kind of like always moving. So like just to go, okay, let's just sit in the moment. Sitting, I'm learning to sit in the moment more and listen. And that's when you'll hear, right? Because it's coming from inside. Well, maybe this. Right? And this story idea, which is explained, came out after my mom took a bad fall. And she, thank God, bless her, she's passed now, but she wasn't hurt in this fall. But I had a bath afterwards because I was just so worried about her. And in the bath, trying to decompress after my mom's terrible fall, the idea for this book came. Wow. Yeah. So it's just weird. Again, seek some balance, seek time for you, and reconnecting with the joy might be the best thing that ever leads you to your next greatest idea. And don't worry about the imposter syndrome thing. You just do it for you. If you're a baker, you go ahead and bake today. Don't worry about trying to be on Instagram with 1 million followers and all this stuff. It's okay just to get in there and do it. And maybe it does lead to something, but maybe you just do it because you're connecting with your joy. And for me, telling stories and meeting people is joyfulness for me. I really love it.
You mentioned social media. I mean, you're in TV, you're writing, you run a production company. What are your thoughts on social media?
I mean, I like social media, but it can be really tough on people because if you can see it in a certain way that a lot of people just put out what they want you to see, which is not real. My thing on social media is I don't put out negative things. So I try to add to the light on all my social media accounts. I don't gripe and complain. I'm trying to inspire people or try to help people or lift people up. I talk about my family, friends, the environment, animals, whatever it is. I don't like people just offloading negativity. So you have to be very careful in your doom scrolling, which is what it is, that you're not taking in so much of the negativity. Like let's add some light in there, right? So my view is that Janice tries to add light, whatever it is, but you won't see me like harping about US politics or my stance on, I have stances on everything. Of course I do, but who cares what I think? I mean, and no offense, you can do whatever you want. It's your social media account. You control it. But on mine, nobody's going to be posting any crap on mine that's negative and I love all people. I'm very open to all people, orientations of people, backgrounds of people, extremely open to everyone, support everyone. So don't be doing any of that crap on my page either. Like go somewhere else. It's not for me. So yeah, I think it can be really good. It can be connective. It can be wonderfully connective, but you have to be careful, right? There can be a lot of negativity out there too. Yeah.
Talking about negativity, a couple of years ago, we had a really, really difficult, we've had some really difficult times though. We had the fire, we had the rain, but before that, we had the person that killed a lot of people.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not saying you're writing a book about that, but if you're going to report something like that, something that heavy, that
Yeah.
how would you go about it?
Well, I think you have to be really cognizant of just like looking at what has happened in Nova Scotia. And you're right, it's been really, really hard for us. And I've actually have talked about this in my work. We see on social media, I'm tying the last question and this one together, a hashtag of NS Strong, Nova Scotia Strong. And I say this with the greatest, I'm Nova Scotian. I'm proud to be from here. And we have had a lot of shit happen to us, and it's enough, right? I would say that when you go out in a grocery store in an elevator, people are like, man, we're just tired out. It's been a lot. It just kind of hangs over people, and really understanding that and having gentleness with it. But when I talk about this hashtag Nova Scotia Strong, and I agree, we're strong people, but my message is, because I do mental health advocacy, is it's okay to not feel strong all the time, right? I mean, there's no way we're all going to be NS strong all the freaking time. And I think it's an important hashtag, but also to allow grace for the fact that it's okay to not feel that way, especially after all the shit we've been through. So if you're not feeling NS strong today or yesterday or last year, that's okay. And cut yourself some slack. That's what I would say.
Yeah, no, because like, actually, why is mental health important to you?
I think it was coming from when I started to do these books with the first responders and I started to talk about Dad. I didn't really expect that, but a lot of the gentlemen, now they're veterans, again, in my early research, were male firefighters of a certain age that could take you back to incidents that happened decades ago. Well, it was a Saturday night and it was like a rainstorm and this and that. And it's like they're there. And I started to realize the toll that not just them, it grew and grew. I mean, I do every front line, anyone who works around trauma, including journalists. It could be, you could be a funeral director, you could be a tow truck driver, you could work on the bridge, you could work anywhere. There's people who work around trauma, right? And it's just in talking to them and realizing what they carry with them and how grateful we have to be for them because they're the backbone of our community. They keep us safe. Nurses, doctors, it could be anybody, social workers. I could go legal aid. It just goes on and on and on of all these people that do this really important work. So it just was, when I opened up the umbrella to talk about Dad, all these little spokes started coming in. I'm like, man, we have to support these people. It really just happened very intrinsically after that. It just came.
You know, you mentioned something, you've mentioned it all over this conversation, which is you carry all these people you talk to.
I do.
And I mean, sure, you soak in the tub and stuff and all that, but are there anything else you do to take care of yourself? And you're like carrying all these people and taking care of all these people and making sure. Who does all that for you?
Oh, that's a great question, man. My family does that. Again, I have this group of a few friends and my family that do that. I'm also a person of faith, and it's not like I mean I don't go to church every Sunday, but I am a faithful person, and I know God's got me. I know that might turn some people off. Listen, I don't really care. It's my what I do is what I do. But I am a person of faith, and I know that my family, that my elders walk with me. So I feel like I turn into that. I listen. I ask for guidance. So part of it is spirituality. Part of it is my own immediate family. Part of it is I have met many mental health professionals and advocates in my work. So interviewing them gives me also a toolbox, right? Like, because I've heard from them what they give to other people, it helps me arm myself too. Having said that, it's really, really hard. So don't think Janice I don't have like a cape. I'm not a superwoman. Yeah, there's days where I'm like, man, I don't know, like, why am I doing this? And I don't know if I can do this anymore. Because it is hard. It's really, really hard work. And I'd be lying to say that it's not. I'm just a person. I'm just a firefighter's kid who likes to tell stories. So that's it. I mean, it's I like pink lipstick and I like, the water, and it's no more than that, But yeah, I try to be careful, but it's a whole bunch of stuff. But I absolutely, being a faithful person, call it whatever it is you believe in. I don't care. To me, I believe it's kind of all the same anyway. It's all good.
It just occurred to me that I didn't even ask what you love about telling stories.
I love the people. people, because I tell mostly nonfiction, I love meeting people. It's true.
What do you love about that, though?
I just think we can see in meeting the people the connectivity of what makes us all alike, and then all the things that are different about people I love too. So I love all learning about different cultures and food and dance, and I just love history. I'm a history buff. I didn't like history when I was in school.
No?
No, because they would make you memorize dates and crap. I want to know, I want application. What did this mean to us now?
Right.
So like the Second World War, I've studied a lot about that. So yeah, I really enjoy what connects us as people and also what makes us unique as people.
Okay. So someone is like, I want to start writing, I want to do a production company, or all these things you do. What advice would you have for them?
Just, it's like, I think something that I talked about yesterday at an International Women's Day conference, I talked about persistence, perseverance, and like passion, these sorts of things. And I think your passion's huge. What is it that you truly, really care about? You can have the greatest work ethic in the world, but if you hate what you're doing, it sucks. And I've seen this with people that I've either worked with or taught or know. It's like everybody expects me to do this, but I really want to do that. Well, you really should be doing that over there.
Right.
Because, to get to where I am in your 50s, when you start when you're a kid, it's a long road, man. You better like what you're doing. So I think having that perseverance, though, to hang in there through the tough times, which is stuff that I talk about in my books too. It's okay that, like I said with the NS Strong, it's going to be hard sometimes, but you just hang in there, right? People have what it takes to do what they want to do. I truly believe that. And I like to support, especially young people that are coming out that want to do things. Like, I have all the time in the world for that, right? Because we have to lift them up and show them they can do it. And it's to see themselves, right? What's really important is to see themselves reflected in the community. So to have various different creators of various different ethnicities and cultures creating, and we need to support this, so that if you're a young kid in school, you go, there's someone like me that's a dancer. There's someone like me that's like a chef or a writer or a scientist or a nurse or whatever. We have to support that really on. And I call on all levels of government for that, for funding, for, the fact that all the creators can see themselves represented in the community.
You're a powerful woman. You do wear a cape.
No, I don't. I don't wear a cape. Okay, my dad wore a cape. I just try to honor those cape wearers.
Okay. It's time for that question, though.
Yeah.
And the question actually came because a friend asked me that question, and I was like, holy shit, but I think it's a powerful question, and it's basically, what's something that happened to you before you were 17 that is responsible for the 29-year-old I'm talking to today?
Yeah. Oh, I love you. That $50 is in the mail. The answer for me is really this. The name of this book is a place. It's called Eye of the Ocean, and this is my late mother standing. I know you can't see it, but there's a cottage. The front of the cottage is called Eye of the Ocean Cottage. Oh. And so Eye of the Ocean is a place in Purcell's Cove where I grew up. And when I was 5, my family and I lived on North Street in Halifax. And we moved down to Purcell's Cove for me to start school. And the most formative thing for me was living at Eye of the Ocean, which was my grandparents' cottage. It was like a little cottage down there in the cove. Because I spent, when you were on the property, it was like surrounded by the ocean on 3 sides. We rented this. We didn't own it. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, right? My mom was a stay-at-home mom for most of the time. My dad was a firefighter. In those days, they weren't paid a lot of money, and they still need to be paid more, just saying, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. But I grew up outside by the water, and the best thing that ever happened to me was growing up in Eye of the Ocean, which I talk all about that in this book, by the water. I spent, skipping stones, looking for beach glass, listening to the seagulls, a foggy day I love, right? I grew up, I can see McNabb's Island in the lighthouse, listen to the foghorn. The best thing that happened to me was at age 5. When I moved by the ocean, has really transcended everything I do right up till now.
Wow. Thanks, Janice. Which book number is this one?
This one was 6th. This is my latest book from 2022. So 2022 was Eye of the Ocean, and the next book will come out in 2025. Title known, but can't reveal it yet.
Okay, okay. You've spoiled me and you've given me a thrill, and I thought, I should end the podcast by blowing your mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so
What?
here's a sheet of paper
Yes.
and a marker.
Yep.
You write a number between 1 and 60. Do not show me.
Yeah.
Just point it to the camera.
Between what?
1 and 60.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what the number is.
All right.
Well, I have a process, but
All right. Are you sure?
yeah.
1 and 60.
1 and 60.
All right.
Okay, we got it.
Yep.
Okay. So here's a series of cards that's going to help me find your number. That number can be in any of these cards or in just one, but it should be in at least one of the cards, right?
Okay.
Is it here?
Let me just look. I don't have my glasses
Oh,
on.
shoot.
That's
sorry.
okay. That's all right. I don't see it there.
Okay. Next one.
But see, the problem is you've actually asked me to do something. I thought there was going to be no math.
No, you don't have to do much.
God, I hope I don't blow this by not seeing it because I don't have my glasses on.
As long as the number is in there, is it there?
I don't see it there.
Okay, cool.
Sorry. I hope I'm not taking too long here.
No,
Oh,
my
Jesus,
God.
Sorry.
No, we're good.
Yeah. No, it's not there.
Okay.
Okay, but what if it's not here, though?
It should be there.
Oh, my God. What if it's not there? Oh, yeah, it's here.
It's there.
It's here.
Just in this one.
Yes, it's there.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is a strange one. But this is the only card that has your number, right?
Yes. It's not a number we discussed.
No.
It's not.
Is it 32?
Yeah.
There you go. Janice, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming to the
There's
podcast.
no way we're ending now. You know I'm an interviewer. Come on. I'm keeping this card.
Yes, you are.
I am, and I'm working this into another piece somehow. Yeah. Thank you so much.
I've had a wonderful time, Janice. Thank you so much.
Like, what is this? How can you end on this? Thank you.